afternoon. Welcome to this fantastic workshop. Welcome to Competencias comunicativas, instrucción para el hablar y escribir en aulas de dual lenguaje, competencias comunicativas, instructional strategies for speaking and writing in a dual language classroom. My name is Marga Marshall and I am part of CABE's team. Today, I, along with my colleague, Carmen Garces, will be supporting with any questions and monitoring the chat throughout the session. I'm excited now to introduce you our awesome presenters, Diane, Sharken, Taboada, and Dr. Jill Kerper Mora for this workshop. Thank you and have a fantastic session.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. So I am Diane, Sharken Taboada, and I have a longstanding relationship with Jill Kerper Mora, who is we work together. We're a tag team. You'll see that, we don't let each other talk too long, but we'll try to do less talking because we have an activity towards the end of this workshop because it's on instructional strategies. So you guys need to walk away with something we hope you can use. We are, let's see, oh my goodness. Okay, I'm going to share my screen so you can see the PowerPoint. And we will go from there. All right. Okay, so we have worked together for a number of years. We met each other in working on a project in Mexico, in Guanajuato, the area of Guanajuato and Querétaro. And we have been joyful participants in research and presentations ever since.
We were the perfect marriage in terms of a research team because Diane loves the classroom observation and working with teachers, and I love the theoretical end of it, the surveys. So we made a marriage. And
¿Es en inglés?
Está en español y inglés. La mayoría de la presentación, la explicación está en inglés. Muchas de las transparencias estarán en español.
Ok, gracias.
Ya mezclado.
Okay, I wanted to let you know that up on my website, Mora Modules, you can access the presentation and all of the materials we'll be using for the presentation, including the complete unit in Spanish from the Mexico curriculum that we'll be working with today. So you go to moramodules.com on your device, click on the tab that says Learn More, and on the right-hand side, something called Bulletin Board. And the first link on the bulletin board is to the CABE 2021 virtual conference. Click there and you'll see the whole list of courses that I put up there for you. Free access.
All right, so we're going to just go ahead, right, Marga, and keep going, although I see people are coming in.
Yes, we'll keep going.
Just go on and meet them. We're so happy that you're all here. We're so proud and pleased that we're part of this bilingual community. Our presentation roadmap says to you that we will talk a little bit about competencia comunicativa, communicative competence, and how that is used in building text understanding and production. We want to share with you what we know about the Mexico National Reading Program and how competencia comunicativa.
I'm sure they do the same for us. They're not coming back. Okay.
We have somebody that's okay. Muchas gracias. Bueno, vamos a estar hablando de competencia comunicativa, que es una filosofía basado en el programa de México de lectura. And we're going to be talking towards the end and doing some work together on building that communicative competence through collaborative writing tasks, where you think about the modes of communication that are in our ELD standards and our SLD standards, and you encourage students to use those to increase and strengthen their language.
Okay, we want to emphasize that it is important to match programs to students. And CABE has given us this wonderful resource on their website of a description and find the important elements of 6 different types of programs. And the advantage that this has is that it gives us a common language to talk about program structure. We want to emphasize that because of the changing linguistic demographics in California, one of the types of programs that are being developed is heritage language programs. And these are mostly appearing at the secondary level and taking over what used to be called Spanish for Spanish speakers types of programs. But also there's more emphasis now in elementary programs on the learning needs of heritage language speakers, who are more similar to native English speakers learning Spanish than they are sometimes to native Spanish speakers. So we'll be talking throughout the presentation about the importance of matching our instruction to the learning and language development needs of the students.
Okay, so we're going to do a quick waterfall. Maybe some of you have done a waterfall before. A waterfall in the chat is a way to hold your students off from contributing their thoughts until everybody's had time to think and to write their thoughts down. And then with a waterfall word and signal, I will ask you to submit your chat. So don't submit until I indicate it's waterfall time. What I'd like you to do is go ahead and look at those programs. Your program calls itself something else. That's fine, but put your program type and the city and state where it is in the chat. Don't submit yet. And when you're ready, we'll be able to take a look at the chat, which I've lost, of course. And we will, can you bring the chat up, Marga, for us? Or do I have to figure out how to do that?
The chat should be, if you go down in the 3 dots, open, the chat will be open. One of the settings is chat.
Yeah, I just lost my settings for some reason. Okay, do that. Oh, that's all right. I can find them again.
I see that 48 people have typed something into the chat.
Okay, that's great that we have so many participants in the chat. Aha, I found the chat. It's right up right there. All right, so I hope everyone's had a chance to put, I'll flip that back up again, to put your type of program and your city and state. And then I'd like you to also think when you're putting that in about what are the linguistic demographics in your classroom. All right, everybody ready? I'm going to give you 30 more seconds to get that in the ready to go. And we're going to have a lot of chats flying by. Are you guys ready? Okay, waterfall. Go ahead and take a look. Plug in the chat.
Wow, amazing.
Wow, Pico Rivers, California, Riverside.
One-way immersion. Mexico.
Lots of dual language immersions.
Yes. And university people, yay.
Napa Valley in the house. Montebello, Rialto. Anybody else want to add their?
Lemon Grove, that's
right.
A little ways away from here.
Okay, so we've got lots of people with lots of experience in a multitude of programs, but we know that all of you are working so hard to make sure that everybody, all of our students, know how to speak, read, and write in Spanish and English. All right, Morro Bay, Coachella. Nice, Santa Ana. Here you come. All right, well, welcome everybody. All right, so we know that one of the challenges of maintaining Spanish and English in the classroom is that particularly with Spanish, not everybody has, every child, every student has the motivation to use their Spanish. There is documented research resistance on the part of some heritage language speakers. They may also come to your classrooms with some non-standard Spanish, colloquial Spanish, a sense of lack of confidence about using what they know. And our job as teachers is to try to maintain the quality of both Spanish and English for reading and writing. So in order to do that, we are going to talk to you about some underlying foundations for that.
And we want to brag about California because California is known as having undergone some remarkable reforms in the last and I want to talk about these documents that have been produced because of these reforms that give us resources for teaching communicative competence and linking oral and written activities. And the Common Core in Español, of course, is near my heart because Silvia Reyes and Sandra Ceja and I are the authors of the linguistic augmentation, the Common Core in Español, which gives us a view of teaching for transfer, what skills transfer and what are specific and particular to Spanish. And the ELA and ELD framework gave us the ELD standards in 2012, and now the SLD standards in 2018. And the ELD standards and the SLD standards, the Spanish language development standards, are structured in such a way that they focus on these modes of communication and include learning activities that focus on those three modes that are very developmentally appropriate and also give students a lot of opportunities for negotiating meaning and working collaboratively on producing written products.
Okay, so we have, oh my goodness. Okay, so we're talking here about that communicative competence in biliteracy. So we're talking about linking language development, language fluency, and literacy learning. And as Jill said, structuring meaning so that children and students learn to negotiate text and oral language at the same time. So here's our modes of communication. I'm going to let you go ahead and talk about those, Jill.
Yes, this shows the parallel between the standards, which are not just a translation. They focus on what's important in Spanish, in the Spanish language development standards. The collaborative, interpretive, and productive modes are color-coded. So notice throughout that whenever we're talking about collaborative, we're looking at purple, interpretive is blue, and productive is green, which I think is appropriate because it's a green light to producing a lot of written text and oral text. And this is the structure of the standards in terms of giving us the resources we need to structure effective instruction.
We have linked, we have linked the document, the SLD document for you. So if you need it, you can go ahead and get it through this PowerPoint.
And it's also posted on Mora modules.
And now we have to find out how to unlink. Okay. Okay. All right. So here's a little picture of the ELD standards. I know many of you are familiar with them. What we want to remind you is that they are a framework for teaching language and literacy. They have embedded in them the purposes for using language, descriptions of all of those purposes. And they also have in them the text types, the genres that you might select in order to help students learn those various functions of language. So if there are any resource on the CDE site that you really need to have, ready at the go for you, these two documents will really help you in developing and give your instruction. Okay. All right. So some of the work that Jill and I want to talk to you about is what the Mexico National Reading Program looks like. And we got to be very familiar with it when we worked in Mexico doing a study of elementary education. Jill was able to help develop and carry out surveys. We surveyed 400 teachers, And I was able to observe in classrooms almost 300 hours of observation in K1 and 2. And from that, we learned that the Mexican reading program is deeply embedded in the understanding of communicative competence. It's the enfoque didáctico, and it has been since 1993. So this is not something new for Mexican teachers. They understand that when they teach language and literacy, they need to have it, the foremost ideas are how children use language. So in the 2-page spread that tells them what do they have to do in their instruction, it talks about using language to communicate and as an instrument to learn. It talks about identifying the properties of language in all kinds of registers. So there's lots of practice for students to learn what kind of language they use talking to their parents, whether that has to shift when they come in and talk to the principal or the teachers. You're not going to use the same register when you tell your friend about a car accident that you had as you are when you talk to the insurance company. So understanding register and function is very important and highlighted in the Mexican program. Students learn to analyze information and use language to encounter and deal with many situations. And perhaps the strongest piece when we think about the Mexican program is that they have always, since the 90s, they've emphasized the importance of diversity and cultural knowledge. Many students come to the rural environments without Spanish, and so teachers have to understand that and deal with it. What's really remarkable for us as researchers is now that same privileged place of language is in the Common Core. There's a standard for language as well as for literacy, reading and writing, and that's very important, and for grammar. So there's a place for emphasizing language. Did you want to add anything to that, Jill?
I just wanted to emphasize what you're saying about teaching culture, explicit teaching culture in Mexico, because the public schools are seen as the vehicle for producing cohesiveness within the culture. And so it's not just a sideline to be teaching about culture in Mexico. It's really part of the purpose of public education.
Okay. You.
And at this slide we have, because we need to think about the similarities and differences between oral language and written language, because we are paying attention to that linkage, how oral language is more fluid and spontaneous and intermediate and interactive, whereas when we're working with text, it is more fixed in terms of rules of orthography and grammar, and how, but it is nonetheless a communication between author and reader. And that is why the communicative focus tells us about how the information that's going from author to reader is best conveyed through the structures of language and the structures of text.
All right. So this is just to let you know where we learned about the reading program in the middle of Guanajuato and Querétaro. And this is a link for you also, so that you can access the CEP materials if you want to. These are free texts for education, and the activity that we're going to bring you into will be using some of these materials.
And it's also linked on Mora modules, so you can find it there too.
Yeah.
And this is the portada of the textbook that we're taking from. And what is important to notice here is that within these materials, they give a lot of interactive, collaborative types of activities and projects in order for students to be building their language and negotiating with each other, to present aspects of the topic, and also to have the elaborated materials that they have themselves developed around the room so that they're generating text from the text.
All right, and this is a little quiz for y'all. So we've got 3 modes of communication. Can you name them? Just name them out to the wall or the ceiling or whatever you want, but it's 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 just for you to remember and think about that in your instruction. You always want to be thinking about colaborativa, interpretativo, and productivo.
And here are some visuals from the unit that you can see give a lot of stimulus, for example, for oral discussion. Because one thing, for example, when we're working on description, here is a photograph that the students can be asked questions about to generate that oral language to describe the bosque templado or the pradera. And then to begin to talk about and look at the different characteristics of each region as they're portrayed in a photograph, so that you're stimulating that language use and that thinking about the characteristics that they see in the photographs.
Joe, I'm going to let you go ahead here, talk about the propósito comunicativo.
Okay, and one important aspect of text is to realize that each paragraph in a text has a particular function or purpose. It has a role in communicating a part of the narrative. And so, for example, you can identify, use as models, a paragraph that is an introduction and what you say in the introduction, and then defining concepts. This is the way students write about the ideas that are going to be discussed in their writing. And use the language in these paragraphs as models for how to describe, how to summarize, and how to explain cause and effect. Because as we will see in our activity, we're looking for those connections and the different types of concepts that are developed in a paragraph to compare and contrast, and how those are selected, and how you can use these as anchor texts to base the discussion.
So our activity is a tarea colaborativa. We would suggest that you divide students into groups, that you give them time to talk about the regions based on the photos, to read the text, and together right now with us, we'd like to show you how you can get them to create or sentences and paragraphs using different kind of connectors or nexos. You can have them first use a tabla de proceso with characteristics of the regions. They could complete a Venn diagram. What we're going to work on right now is we're going to think about the climate, okay? Because we don't have too much time. So rather than do a Venn diagram, which we feel most of you are probably pretty familiar with, we're going to take these nexos and we're going to give you an opportunity to look at some text. Now, you would give your students the chance to do this kind of a text analysis and highlight anything that they see pertinent to climate or to clima. And we've done that for you. And what we want to do now is take you to a Jamboard and give you the opportunity to try to create your own sentences along with us. So, Marga, you're all set. That is in the chat for you. If you're a Jamboard user, then this may be fun and not quite what you need, but we'd love to have you here as our experts. If you've never done a Jamboard before, you go to that link and it will take you to our Jamboard Unidad Regiones Naturales número 1. So I want to do a little explanation. I'll give you about a minute for everybody to join in. All right, we've got lots of people in the Jamboard. So one little tidbit. I had quite a few conversations. I'm supervising new teachers now. And one of their master teachers said to me, you know, when I name my Jamboards, I've learned that I can't just call them whatever the name of the Jamboard is. I have to fit it into my unit so that students can go back and find it because they were having a lot of trouble finding materials. So this is my unidad is Regiones Naturales. This is Jamboard número uno. And then I put my name and I also put the date at the end, which you can't quite see. So when you do a Jamboard, for those who never have, you get a chance to to set up frames. We have lots of frames here. And there's a few extra frames if we need them. When you go into the Jamboard, you'll see some directions. You'll see your sentence there. And you will find over on the left-hand side some tools. You're not going to use your pen or your eraser. You're going to use the fourth tool down to create a sticky note and go ahead and write in there a sentence using the information from the texts. And don't forget to put your name and maybe where you're from. And those who have whose names begin with A to L, you can go ahead and start putting your Jamboard, your sticky notes on the first frame. And those whose names begin with M to Z, you can go ahead and put your sticky notes on the third frame. And anyone who needs it, in the middle, there are the nexos. We would like you to make a sentence with at least one of those nexos and make at least one sentence. You have 3 minutes starting now. We should start some. All right. Thank you, Teresa. You're starting. Sorry, there's so many. Okay, be sure you go ahead to frame 2 and use one of those nexos in your sentence. I love whoever put el terreno está lleno de hielo. ¿El terreno de cuál región? Y compararlo, comparado con cuál región. Let's take a look. Oh, great. All right, we have one in cambio. Somebody's using en cambio. Okay, looking for more participants. Las montañas están llenas de nieve. Leslie, beautiful start to your sentence. What nexo will you choose to connect las montañas with las montañas de dónde? ¿De la tundra o del desierto?
Perdón, un pequeño recordatorio, 10 minutos, 10 minutes.
Okay, muchas gracias. Okay.
Yes, and I'm looking to see if you are using 2 important categories of concepts here. I'll give you a little hint. One has to do with temperature, another has to do with precipitation. Humedad, lluvia, hielo.
Okay, well, we're gonna, for those of you who are still continuing to fill out your Post-its, wonderful, we're seeing here, but you can see what we're gonna do with these once the students complete them is we're gonna look for some commonalities. How many people used, I see someone using sin embargo, en cambio, similarmente,
Aunque.
mientras tanto,
Mhm.
pero en cambio. So here's two people that chose the same nexo. So we're going to start either in their groups or with your large group. You can start to think about what kind of vocabulary are students using in these. Durante tiene temperatura, el desierto tiene temperaturas grandes. Excellent job here. Now see if you can compare it to la tundra. Okay. All right, we have hay poca lluvia, pero, ¿por qué?
Mhm.
Llenas de nieve. Pero, another person that decided to use pero as their connector. Al contrario, nice.
And notice that the nexos are not words and terms that are ordinarily used in conversation. And this is why this is such a good activity for building academic Spanish, because the nexos are ways of linking ideas. We also call them enlaces, conectores, and there's some materials from Mexico that have wonderful lists, and I've put additional PowerPoints with a variety of nexos on them on the Mora modules link for you.
So we've got someone else using al contrario. So you can see that this gives children and students an opportunity to really use the language in the text, apply it, and come up with their own writing. I'm going to move us back into our presentation, okay? Let's see. So we'd just like you to think about that what we've got in this example is a way to use information, use pedagogy that we've learned in Mexico that we see really highlighted there and also here in the States. So we really think that, you know, this is a collaboration that needs to continue and has strength. Jill, did you want to add anything to that?
Yes, I think one of the important things to consider is that in some ways, Mexico was ahead of the United States in terms of looking at constructivism and the focus on negotiating meaning and all of those things that are now in vogue and just essential components of our programs, because they were looking at how to develop students' ability to use the language for communication. And out of that focus comes this development of academic language as a way of communicating in academic settings, and also to improve the understanding and the benefit that students gain from textbooks.
Yeah.
And then taking the language from the textbook and developing their own texts.
All right, so if you want more information or a link to our slideshow, it is in the Mora modules. There's our contact information is here, and we would like to open it up for the last few minutes. Just think to yourself, a yay or nay. Does a focus on communicative confidence raise students' awareness of the communicative purposes of the text? Does it teach students about discourse and text structure? Will it increase students' use of complex sentences? Will it develop students' fluency in academic Spanish? Can it build students' confidence? And now, Marta, I don't know how we come back. Do I just stop my share and we come back to, all right. So we'd like to actually have you guys, everyone out there, share your thinking now. So we're going to stop the share and see who's out there. Okay. Any folks have a comments or questions? Something you'd like to share about your own use of Jamboard or your own experiences with developing communicative confidence? Okay, we have a question here. Do you have some
About
insight?
decoding in Mexico. It's because the Spanish is so transparent in its spelling. You have all the information in print to pronounce a word correctly. So it really is a much simpler language to read and write than English.
All right. Other questions, comments? Big group.
Miss Diane, mucho gusto. How would you do it with the child with the special needs that it might confuse them or they have a difficulty using the language because not because they don't know, because they have problem probably speaking?
They have trouble speaking. I would do a lot of echo and repeat and establish for them first, give them a lot of models, a lot of examples. You know, nothing that you probably don't already know, but keep things simple. Make sure that when you call on that student, you always give them opportunity first to hear at least one, maybe two, maybe three other students with anything they contribute. And in terms of something like the Jamboard, have some model post-its that they could just copy.
And also, I think it's really important to realize that description is easier than talking about compare and contrast or cause and effect. So think about the thought demands, the critical thinking demands of the text, because you go from the simple, more direct, straightforward types of propósitos for the paragraph to the more difficult and complex that require more thinking skills. So really, if you start with description and then move into compare and contrast, that's better developmentally for the students to grasp the essential language, the basic language of the thought process before they get too challenged in terms of the complexity of the sentences.
Thank you. Gracias.
Well, I wish we had more time. I would love to have more time, but we'll talk to Kabe about that.
I know. Well,
We have so much to offer. And do please go to Mora Modules and email me if you have questions or if you need help locating something. But moramodules.com, look at the top of the tab, go to learn more. Then on the right-hand side, go to the bulletin board to access the resources.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Ms. Diane Sharken Taboada. Thank you, Dr. Kerper Mora. And for all the attendees, thank you so much for joining us on day 2 of CABE's 2021 first virtual conference. We will now take a 10-minute break before you enter into the closing session. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your evening. Go CABE!
Go Kabe.
Kabe. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You publish your book, Dr. Mora? Oh, Sheila,
Yes.
did you publish your book about trans language?
About transfer? No, it's still in the hopper.
Oh,
Please do look at my Spanish language pedagogy book.
oh, okay. Thank you.
Yes, you bet.
All
And
right.
thanks for remembering.
Thank you guys so much for
Uh-huh.
monitoring and being there.
No.
Su información está en el intranet de la hora.
I told you no.
Por favor, vaya
Lady,
a Mora
no.
Modules y ahí va a encontrar el link. ¿Ok?
Oh, Katia, we have MDUSD team.
Vaya a Mora
MDUSD in the room.
Woohoo!
Great pleasure.
Fantastico.
Bye bye. Buenas noches.
Bye. Buenas tardes a todos.
They should have a chit chat 3 minutes.
Yes.
Oh, yes, Katia. ¿Qué
Yes.
tal?
Hola, Carmen. No,
I'm
it's
really
really nice seeing you, Diane.
It was
It's been a
wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm working with Sarai's younger sister. She's also
Oh,
becoming
okay.
a teacher.
Awesome. That's cool.
It is. Fantastico. That is the student, Carmen, I spoke to you about.
Oh, well, thank
Did
you
you
for
give
helping
her
us
my
out.
information, Diane?
Excuse me?
Did you give her my
I
information?
did. I did. She'll
Okay.
follow up. I'll encourage her.
Oh,
Yeah.
please do so.
That's
Bye,
great.
my friend.
Bye. Good
Bye.
evening.
Bye.
Good to see you, Marga.
Bye, Dr.
Bye.
Mora.